It is currently week 17, fixing to conclude week 17 of the NFL season. And it's already flew by. The holidays has already came and went. We gotten open our Christmas presents. It's fixing to be the new year, and the NFL playoffs is among us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in the world of sports. I'm your host, Jayden, and I'm glad to be with you here on December 29th, 2 days away from New Year's Eve. We are going to be recapping week 17 of the NFL season. We're going to be talking about the Niners and the Bears from last night. Absolutely phenomenal game. Masterclass between Ben Johnson and Kyle Shanahan in that game, and great play from Brock Purdy and Caleb Williams. We are going to talk about next Bills, Eagles. A lot of mediocrity in that game, and it made me question, can both of these teams really make some noise and contend for a Super Bowl in the future? We're going to discuss that. We are going to talk about Seattle and the Panthers. Seattle, I've been really high on them lately, but they're starting to scare me just a tad. We'll get to that. We're going to talk some Cowboys, and then we're going to end the show off discussing the Detroit Lions missing the playoffs and arguing, did they miss their Super Bowl window? But before we get into all that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. Happy holidays. Hope you all have a great New Year's Eve in the coming days. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the podcast, and check out my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to check it out on those platforms. Get a kick of the chair, ladies and gentlemen. The red and black is going to be gone. Got a new chair for Christmas. Shout out my dad. Got a brand new chair coming. All black. Thank the Lord. So I got a new chair. And yes, I got some new equipment that was supposedly supposed to get and be prepped for this show. I had some exciting things planned that I wanted for this show after Christmas, but it's going to be delayed just for a little while. So got exciting things coming on in the future. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it today. Niners, Bears, Sunday Night Football. Really, really big matchup. One that I was very, very excited for. And it did not disappoint. Like, this game was absolutely phenomenal. There was one point in the game where the Bears, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams and the Bears, and Brock Purdy and the Niners just trading touchdowns. You know, the game opens up. Brock Purdy, first play of the game, throws a horrible slant pass into coverage, pops up in the air, and Edwards picks it off and takes it to the house. So you're already thinking, like, oh, Lord, it might be one of those Brock Purdy-esque type games that he had on Monday Night Football, primetime type game against the Carolina Panthers a couple of weeks earlier in the season. But Brock Purdy did not bat an eye after that first interception. Brock Purdy was absolutely sensational. It was just high, elite level quarterback play across the board. Caleb Williams played, and I've discussed it last week, and he finally done it. Caleb Williams played 4 quarters of high level elite football. Yes, Caleb Williams played elite level football, and it was exciting to watch. And 2 takeaways for both teams, respectively each. Brock Purdy and the Niners, it has been absolutely remarkable to see what they have been able to do. Purdy and the offense just played at an absolute elite level. Between being able to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey, and it felt like even in this game, the offense was kind of expanded a little bit. It wasn't too CMC reliant. Without George Kittle, Brock Purdy was able to distribute to Kevin Bourne, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings. He was able to get those guys involved. And Tonjes, the backup tight end for the San Francisco 49ers. So they wasn't too CMC reliant, and that let Christian McCaffrey, whenever he did get the football, be absolutely super effective. In contrast to the Bears. The Bears, well, let me not even get to the Bears. I'm over here trying to get to the Bears. Let's just stick with the Niners here. And so the offense played at a high level, and I think that it is absolutely bananas that the 49ers have a shot at the number 1 seed in their matchup against the Seattle Seahawks on Saturday night. Given everything, and I'm beating a dead horse here, so I'm going to keep it real short. Given everything that the 49ers have been through with injuries, drama with Brandon Ayuk off the field, they have a shot on a Saturday night for the number 1 seed in the NFC. I've seen people argue this. I don't care about their schedule and who they've played. With the type of weapons at their disposal, Kyle Shanahan and this team has played at an absolute elite level. And there's no way you can convince me otherwise. Absolutely no way. So it is remarkable what the 49ers have been able to do. In that game, when Brock Purdy throws that first interception, I was like, yeah, this might be a game where Brock Purdy might fold. It was absolutely totally opposite. Now, the defense did not play well, which I was really, really shocked about it. But this is when we get to talking about the Bears. I mean, the Bears really played well. Caleb Williams finally, for the first time probably all season, in a big game, played 4 quarters of elite football. Did he miss some gimmies here and there? Yes. There are a couple throws that Caleb Williams is going to want to have back. There was like 3 big missed throws that I can see from the top of my head. But specifically on that last drive when Robert Saleh brought an all-out blitz. And this is the gimme drive, like another clutch drive. And I tweeted it on Twitter, and I was like, yeah, this is a drive where Caleb Williams is going to get it done. Robert Saleh brings a 0 blitz. Devin Duvernay is wide open in the flat. He runs a drag route across the field, and Caleb Williams is having to drift backwards because of the pressure. And if he throws the ball short of Devin Duvernay, if he gives that ball to Duvernay, he's hitting his head on the goalpost. Like, there's one defender in between Devin Duvernay and Glory. And there's a good chance, given he is a punt returner and he's one of their kicker return specialists, I can bet that Duvernay was going to make that guy miss and score a touchdown. So Caleb Williams is going to want a couple of those throws back. But man, Caleb Williams was really dialed in yesterday. He made some big plays. Smart elite plays. Like the one play that he made where he drew an offsides and threw that dime to Colston Loveland. Very veteran quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes-esque type stuff. A lot of the throws that he was making, like Caleb Williams was finally dialed in for 4 quarters, and it was phenomenal to see. And the Bears defensively, they got the interception on the first drive, and they got another interception that got called back for a illegal touching on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But you got to tip your cap off to just Kyle Shanahan and the Niners. Like, you didn't have your best day against the most elite play caller in the NFL. And this is when I want to discuss about the Kyle Shanahan and the Ben Johnson battle that was on full display last night. If you want to see coaching masterclass at either position, tune into last night's game. Go watch the highlights. What Kyle Shanahan and Ben Johnson put on display yesterday, play calling wise, was absolutely elite. Do you know how hard it is for the Niners to score on every single? They punted twice. The Bears, I think, punted twice as well. There was hardly no punts all game. You're scoring every single drive. You know, Ben Johnson haven't been able to get Caleb Williams to play elite football for 4 quarters. He's like, Caleb, you kind of know how your defense is going to play today. So I need you to score every single drive. And Caleb Williams is like, I got you, coach. We're going to go score every single drive. Just phenomenal coaching display by Kyle Shanahan. And I got to give Kyle Shanahan credit on the game management situation with the Bears, which is going to be my next takeaway for the game. That final play, Kyle Shanahan talked about it in the post game. Like, yeah, we saw Caleb Williams and the Bears look kind of dysfunctional. They didn't know what they wanted to. They weren't prepared and ready to call because the play clock was running down. So I wanted to use a timeout to get my defense ready, but I was seeing that they looked dysfunctional, and it showed, and that ended up losing them the ball game. Like, we really got to give Kyle Shanahan a ton of credit. That is great game management. Seeing that the Bears was dysfunctional on that final play and getting a stop to win the game, a huge game to go on and give yourself a chance on Saturday to play for the number 1 seed, get healthy. Because, hey, there's reports about Fred Warner possibly being available for the playoffs. So if you can get that first round bye, you might give yourself a chance for Fred Warner to come back, even though they are saying it won't, more than likely won't be to the NFC Championship game. But I have to give a lot of love to the 49ers on that front. Just phenomenal. And from the Bears, we'll conclude with this. I really did not love the final late game management there by Ben Johnson. Didn't like the idea of having to waste a timeout on the incomplete pass. It was a big play. It was 4th down, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it was ideal that you would want to call a timeout, but it gives you a disadvantage, a huge disadvantage, and it was because of this. if you call the hook and ladder play, you got to make sure you're more than likely going to score. You got to score. That hook and ladder play took up a lot of time. And the referees really resembled the Dallas Cowboys of a couple years ago in the playoff game in Dallas 4 years ago. And ironically, it was the 49ers were responsible for in this game, participating in it. And the umpire takes forever to spot the ball. And you have 4 seconds left in the game when you had like 20 some seconds on the clock. And now you have 4 seconds left and you got one play. You don't even have a timeout to be able to dial up the best play you got. You got to call it in the 40-second timeline that you have. And the Bears, let's be honest, Caleb, they weren't set, they weren't ready. No, the guys seemed like they didn't know our route to run. And I alluded to it a while ago, Kyle Shanahan's seen that, so you didn't get the luxury of possibly getting that timeout to where you can offensively call your best play. And the Bears snapped the ball, and the game's over because it was a very rushed, dysfunctional operation there in the final play, and you lose the game, which Caleb Williams gave a decent ball to Luther Burden, but it just short, one skipped, and the game was over. So I really, really, really did not love the final late game management by Ben Johnson. And even Chris Collinsworth was saying in the broadcast, they had picked up that first down and there was 50 seconds left. And Chris Collinsworth, they had 3 timeouts at the time. And Chris Collinsworth was like, I really kind of would want to kill a timeout here. And then he completed a 5-yard gain to Luther Burden, and he called a timeout then. But phenomenal game last night. I feel like both teams, even if they lose in the playoffs, let's be honest, both the Bears and the Niners overachieved this season. Like, we cannot watch this game and look at the whole body of work for both of these teams throughout the whole season and not come away with the idea that, yeah, both of these teams overachieved this season. So phenomenal game last night. Elite play by the Niners and the Bears. Let's move on to the next game. Bills, Eagles. Now, this game really meant not much to both teams. You're Philly, you're not really got a shot realistically at the number 1 seed. The worst you're going to get is the 3 seed, and the best you're going to get is the 2 seed. So there's not much riding on this game for you. Like, it's either, okay, you're going to be able to guarantee, if you're the 2 seed, 2 home playoff games, and the 3 seed, you really only more than likely guaranteed 1. So that's really the only difference that you're playing for here. And in the Bills argument as well, the Bills, you got to win out to win the division. The Jets yesterday got absolutely plummeted by the Patriots, and the Patriots played the Dolphins next week. So it's not very likely that the Patriots were going to give away the division title to the Bills. But just a couple of things. And I live tweeted this game because this game was front and center for me, and there was no other games on at the 4:00 window that was interesting outside of this game. And a lot of people are giving the quarterbacks a pass. The weather was absolutely horrendous. It was cold, wet, rainy in Buffalo in the middle of the night. Like, that is a quarterback and offense's worst nightmare. The defense is like, oh yeah, we're going to have a day. But if you're the offense, and Tom Brady pointed this out multiple times on the broadcast, this is the type of game you don't want to play. He pointed out Goddard having to switch his gloves. Like, yeah, I would probably be wearing leather gloves instead of plastic gloves in this game. But at one point, I had tweeted it out live. I said that it is absolutely shocking that the Bills were even in this game at one point in the second half. Because in the first half, the Eagles were putting it on the Buffalo Bills. Defensively, couldn't get a stop. Saquon Barkley was able to make some plays here or there. Jalen Hurts was actually efficient throwing the football. And offensively, that defense was humming. I tweeted it out in the first half at one point, like, yeah, the Eagles are out there flying and hitting. Like the one sequence where James Cook absolutely got flipped around and he fumbled the ball, but he was ruled down by contact. And then that same drive a couple plays later, Blankenship just lays the wood to one of the, I think it was one of the wide receivers. And I was coming away going at halftime. It was 13-0. And I was like, man, the Bills just don't have a shot. They had no life. Josh Allen was getting murdered. He got sacked 5 times. He had he injured his toe at one point. He was out there limping for a majority of the game. And going at halftime 13-0, I'm like, dude, the Bills don't have a shot. This team, they're dead in the water. The Eagles just showed up ready to play. And offensively, they were an eyesore in the first half. Bad play calls all around. Joe Brady, and I can't really fault Joe Brady because the Bills have no weapons. Like, if you go back to the second half, and it might have been the first, it was the second half, but it was when the Bills went for it on 4th and goal and Josh Allen was short at the half-yard line. I tweeted it out. He had Brandon Cooks wide open in the flat to his right. He just literally, he could have underhanded. We've seen Josh Allen do this before. He could have literally underhanded it to Brandon Cooks. He was so wide open there to the right. But Josh Allen was forcing plays. Josh Allen was forcing plays yesterday. Because Josh Allen knows, and I said this when I tweeted it out. I'm going to go back and look it up, but I tweeted, you can tell that Josh Allen, we're going to read it here. Josh Allen, I said Josh Allen had Cooks wide open in the flat on 4th down. He clearly feels he has to play Superman and doesn't trust the resources around him. That's exactly what I said. Josh Allen, in that moment, felt like he needed to make a play because he does not trust the resources around him. Now, granted, in the second half, he threw a couple huge one-on-one balls to Brandon Cooks and Shavers, and they were big plays that benefited them, getting them into this game. But Josh Allen was forcing, and that sack that he took in the first half, or might have been the second half, I can't even quite remember, but it's the one where he lost 25, 30 yards. That was one of the worst sacks I've seen a quarterback take all year by a landslide. That sack was absolutely horrendous. It took them out of the field goal position, and they had to punt the ball. Like, that was one of the worst plays I've seen. And in the first half, it felt like they got boat raced. And the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that never ceases to surprise me. The media yesterday has been, the Philadelphia Eagles and the media, like, are the most polarizing topic I can say that has been in the NFL all year. We got people that are on the internet defending how the Eagles are playing. We got some like me who are criticizing how the Eagles have been playing. So let's just go ahead and get with this. There are a lot of people, I'm not going to specify names, that are out there praising the way the Eagles played yesterday. Yeah, Nick Sirianni, and I quote tweeted this. There was a video of him going out to the locker room after the game, and he was pretty much like, not so much talking anymore, leaving the game. And I was like, does this guy, is he reading the room? The Philadelphia Eagles had 0 offensive passing yards in the second half. 0. And I saved the tweet. There was a person, I might have saved it, I might have not. Yes, I did save it. This guy, per True Media Sports, there has been 10 games this year where a team had fewer than 5 passing yards and a half. The Eagles consist of 3 of them. And there are people arguing, and I saw it last night, and I'm seeing it this morning, that the Eagles are capable of winning a Super Bowl. And I'm like, are we watching the same game? The Eagles, tale of 2 halves all year. This happens in multiple games. One half, they're phenomenal. In the next half, they forget how to play offense. And in the half, they forget to play offense. They can't run the football. The offensive line is horrific. I haven't talked about it, and I'm probably talking about it on Wednesday. Pro Bowl votes. Cam Jurgens, how did he get in? He was getting beat like a Cherokee drum all day yesterday. Go look at the film. Nose tackle, whoever it was, there was a red jersey in the backfield 95% of the time that Saquon Barkley got the ball. So I don't know how he made the Pro Bowl. They can't run the football. And the passing game, non-existent. It's like, I don't know if they get too conservative because they know they're winning and they know they have a phenomenal Super Bowl, one of the best defenses in the NFL to get the job done. But I do not understand for the life of me why the offense of the Philadelphia Eagles just goes non-existent for a half of football after playing a great, phenomenal first half for the most part. And there are people defending the way Jalen Hurts played. Yes, I can agree. In the first half, Jalen Hurts was actually throwing some pretty nice balls. Like the one ball that he threw to A.J. Brown that should have been a touchdown, should have been pass interference because the defensive back literally held A.J. Brown's arm. Like, Jalen Hurts was pretty good throwing the football yesterday, and he was on time. And I know that doesn't reflect the box score because in the second half, Jalen Hurts was mostly rolling out and throwing the ball away and punting the football. That's what Jalen Hurts was doing. But he didn't turn the ball over, and he didn't make any negative plays. You know, that's what a lot of people are saying in the media. But I digress. But if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, like, and you're Nick Sirianni and you're bragging right like this, I would be pretty embarrassed to be in the conversation with this appalling stat that there have been 10 games this year where a team has had fewer than 5 yards and a half, and the Eagles consist of 3 of those games. That is a New York Jets type stat. Like, having 0 passing yards in a half is a New York Jets type stat. It is a Miami Dolphins type stat. It's a Tennessee Titans. Like, it's one of those stats that you associate with one of the worst teams in the NFL. Yet, this is a Philadelphia Eagles team who is 11 and 5. Is it 11 and 5? Yeah, they are 11 and 5. They are the number 3 seed in the NFC, division winners, and people are putting this team in the conversation for being one of the best teams to compete for the Super Bowl. Coming out of an NFC with Seattle, the Rams, I don't see it. The Niners, the Packers, well, they might be able to. I would like their chances against the Packers. But I do not see, and I'm not currently seeing, how people, and this is when we're going to conclude this part, I don't understand and I don't see how any of these teams are capable of winning a championship. Granted, the conditions were horrible. But Josh Allen, and we're going to conclude with this, the Bills cannot win without Josh Allen being Superman. They just can't. And Josh Allen in this game left the Bills off the hook. And there's people that's been questioning if the Bills should have went for it on fourth down. Not on fourth down. If they should have went for 2. And I was one of those. I live tweeted. I'm like, yeah, if the Bills scored, they should go for 2. Because the Philadelphia Eagles have made a living off of blocking game-winning field goals and extra points. Like, they've done it multiple times this season. So I was like, and the possession before that, when they scored a touchdown, they blocked the PAT. So there's no, Jalen Carter did, and there's no question. I was like, there's no question the Bills should go for 2. And they went for 2, and Shakir was wide open, and Josh Allen just misses him. Josh Allen let the Philadelphia Eagles off the hook. And this is why and this is another thing. This is why I have a problem with the Philadelphia Eagles conversation this morning about them being contenders. What if Josh Allen makes that throw? The story of the game was how anemic the Bills' offense was. And they lost. And if the shoe was on the other foot, if the Bills come out with a win, we would be having a conversation about how pathetic the Philadelphia Eagles are offensively. So we got to continue to keep the same energy. But Josh Allen was probably up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning this morning, just watching the film of this game and just beating himself up about missing that throw to Shakir. You got to make that throw. Drifting to your left, yes, I understand it, bad conditions, but that is just one of those gimme throws that you got to have. And the Bills, without Josh Allen just playing Superman and playing at a super high level, they are going to be an easy out in the playoffs. And in contrary to the Eagles, they cannot play 4 quarters of high-level offense. They can't. They have not done it all season. Yes, do the Eagles make plays to win games when they ultimately need to, and that is one of the biggest assets to the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, I understand that. But you cannot say with the competition across a very stacked NFC where there's 3 teams already that I would probably bet against beating the Philadelphia Eagles. The Niners, I think could. The Bears already have. The Seahawks definitely can, and the Rams can. Granted, the Eagles beat the Rams, but I think on going to LA, yes, absolutely, I'm picking the Rams. So, yeah, that game there was a tale of the battle of mediocrity across the league. These are two teams that I really strongly feel cannot win a Super Bowl this year at all. Seahawks Panthers. I was tuning into this game because it's Carolina Panthers. Kind of a lot of playoff implications on this game. Basically, if Carolina would have won, would have made the playoffs. And if the Seahawks win, they're going to be in a shot in the game to win be the number one seed in the NFC. So a lot of implications. And I wanted to really discuss this because a couple of weeks ago, I had discussed about after the game against the Atlanta Falcons, I was really worried about the Seattle Seahawks. Not even the game against the Falcons. It was actually the game against the Colts, and where they keep field goals and won the game. I brought on the topic like I'm really worried about the Seahawks and the way they're playing offensively. And while I was off on vacation, they played that Thursday night game and came away with a win. So I had to watch the highlights to really see what happened, to kind of get a gist of what happened in this game. And my takeaway is, yeah, Seattle is winning games despite not playing highly efficient offense. They just haven't. Over the scale, since they lost to the Rams, I really do not think that the Seattle Seahawks has played offense at an extremely high level like they did early on in the year. They were in a dogfight with the Tennessee Titans. In the first half, it was like 6-6 game between the Falcons in the first half. And the next game after that, you play the Indianapolis Colts in a game where you kick field goals to win the game. And on Thursday night last week, if it wasn't for Rashid Shaheed running back a punt return, the offense was lifeless. Sam Darnold was lifeless. And Sam Darnold has moments where it's like, what are you doing? He had 2 bad interceptions against the Rams, and he had 1 interception and 1 forced fumble against the Panthers. And the 1 interception that he did throw was bad. The 1 forced fumble he had was bad. And if you watch the game from every snap, which I did for the most part, you would have seen that there were many more opportunities for there to be more turnovers courtesy of Sam Darnold. A lot more. I've not been very impressed with what I've seen from the offense of the Seattle Seahawks. Like, we were having conversations about Jackson Smith and Jigba running away with the Offensive Player of the Year and like how he was one of the best wide receivers in the league. Really hasn't had those type of noise and conversations across the media space for a good while. Maybe the last 5, 6, 7 weeks. Now, I can't say something that's gone up under the radar. Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker have been running and toting the football. That is something that I'm very excited and very happy to see. And they've done it in Carolina yesterday. They ran the ball very well. Charbonnet, that guy is a workhorse. But Seattle ultimately benefited from the horrific play offensively of the Carolina Panthers. Seattle, they cannot play the way they did yesterday and beat the 49ers. Because defensively, I've said this many times, and it's still the case today as we're talking, I think this defense is Super Bowl caliber. It's like one of the best defenses in the NFL. They got players everywhere. Mike McDonald, great, phenomenal defensive coach. The Ravens probably hate that he got a head coaching job. But offensively, and Sam Darnold, it's rough. And we know what happened last year. Sam Darnold in the final 2 games that he played. And Sam Darnold is essentially in the same scenario he was last season. Last season, it was the Vikings versus the Lions in the final week of the season to say who gets the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And Sam Darnold absolutely folded like a lawn chair in that game. And in the playoff game, I think they did play, I want to say they played the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. I can't quite remember who they played in the playoffs. I just remember in that game, same thing, folded like a lawn chair. and history is repeating itself this year. Sam Darnold is going to be playing for the number 1 seed on Saturday night. And it is going to be bad for Seattle if Sam Darnold goes and does the same exact thing he did last season, choke that game, and the Seattle Seahawks are going to have to go on the road, which they've been pretty successful on the road this year. You're going to have to go on the road and win a playoff game. Granted, if they have to go on the road, they're probably more than likely going to be a 5 seed, so you're going to get the Carolina Panthers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm definitely betting the Seattle Seahawks to win that game. But in order, winning a divisional playoff game, I think they might be underdogs. And there might be a situation where Sam Darnold turns pumpkin. So that's something that we need to look out with the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm really, really beat up. I'm really beat up the Carolina Panthers here. And something that I missed too. It feels weird to be having a conversation about the Seattle Seahawks, the team who's going to have the number 1 seed. It feels weird to be having those type of conversations, but I digress. I'm gonna beat up the Carolina Panthers a little bit. I say that just because, this is the hometown team, Charlotte, Carolina. The coaching job that Dave Canales did yesterday was absolutely abysmal. He coached scared. The defense has to be absolutely. Today, I know they're watching film. They have to be beside themselves. The defense does. The way Dave Canales called that game yesterday. He didn't even let Bryce Young try to stretch the field. Bryce Young averaged 2 yards a pass yesterday. They pointed it out in the broadcast at one time. I think Bryce Young had 14 completions, but he only it was only for 50-some yards. It was this, and I had this problem when they played the 49ers. You got away from the run game, which they did again in this game. And the Bryce Young, the play calling was predictable. He was always rolling out in play action, and if he was dropping back to pass, they were throwing swing passes out to the left or the right to the running backs. The wide receivers were an absolute no-show yesterday. Granted, Roy McMillan, they said he had an illness coming into the game. Leggett, the guy hasn't turned and panned out to the wide receiver you wanted him to be with a high second-round draft pick. And you got a guy in Jalen Coker, pretty good player, but he's not the type of talent Roy McMillan is. Carolina, when they get into the draft this upcoming season, really probably with the first 2 picks are going to draft another wide receiver. Their wide receiver room is bottom tier in the NFL. But it felt like every concept was designed for a check down to the running backs. The running backs were very, very reliant yesterday between Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. I was not a fan of the game that Dave Canales had called yesterday. Really, really bad job. And if you're the Panthers, you were kind of shocked that your defense was able to play as well as they did against the Seattle Seahawks offense, who have high caliber players. And you're at home. The weather's pretty good. And if you win the game, you're going to the playoffs. And I discussed this yesterday with a buddy of mine. If you're the Carolina Panthers, you want to see Bryce Young in a playoff game. You're wanting to see Bryce Young. They're questioning if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. And if you are the David Tepper, if you're the organization, you want to see Bryce Young in a playoff game because you want to know if he's the guy. Granted, I think the Carolina Panthers probably know the answer to that question already, but you want to set Bryce Young up for at least to have a try in the conversation, in the argument. Third year in the season, you have an opportunity to make the playoffs. You're wanting to see Bryce Young in a playoff game. Because if Bryce Young in that playoff game plays respectfully decently well, you can probably come away saying to yourself, maybe we can go ahead and pay this guy because we're not going to have to pay him a fortune. He's not getting close. Sam Darnold got $30 million. I imagine Bryce Young you can probably get Bryce Young the $25 million range. You could do that because he's obviously not donned or played quite as well to don the type of money that the Dak Prescotts and the Joe Burrows, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all those guys have. But if he plays decently well, you can go ahead and continue to build with what Dave Canales and the Panthers, Dave Canales and company have built, because I think they've built a pretty solid foundation so far. They just need to continue to add with free agency and the draft picks. Like, the defense actually turned out to be pretty decent. They need some players. J.C. Horns actually turned out to be a pretty good player because at first he was dealing with a lot of injury. And I was questioning, like, man, is this guy ever going to pan out in the league? But he's put together a solid season. He made the Pro Bowl. So you're going to want to see Bryce Young in the playoff game. And if they lose that game on Saturday, or is it? No, they play Sunday at 4 o'clock. If they lose that game on Sunday, if you're David Tepper, you got to be highly disappointed. Like, the division is for the taking. And you had Seattle. It was a 3-3 ball game at one point. Like, the game was close, and the defense kept you in the game. And they were making some key stops, and offensively, they were just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. So that is a big game on Sunday. And if you're Carolina, again, you want to see Bryce Young in a big-time situation. Sunday's going to be a big-time game, but I'm talking about playoffs. You want to see your quarterback in the playoffs. You want to see how your team plays in the playoffs. And if you lose to a Buccaneers team who, let's be honest, lost to the Dolphins yesterday, and they are just falling off the edge of a cliff. They were into Super Bowl conversations at one point. People had them in their top 5 teams in the league. Baker Mayfield was in MVP conversations, and now they are more than likely going to finish with a below 500 record. If you lose to that team, it's going to be a bad day in Carolina. I know a lot of people. I got a guy who I'm actually going to be networking with who covers the Carolina Panthers currently. I'm going to have a lot of interesting conversations. I'm going to have some Carolina fans on the show to discuss their horrific management of that franchise these last couple games. Just bad this year. Just bad. So that knocks out the Sunday slate, and we're going to pivot away to, I want to talk about some Christmas games just right fast. The Lions were eliminated from the playoffs on Thursday, Christmas Day. They were eliminated. I want to discuss them in their window to the Super Bowl, and we're going to discuss Dallas. So we'll go ahead and discuss Dallas right quick. Just my quick interpretation. It's my team. I'm going to talk about them. Obviously, they're not in the playoffs. My takeaway from the Commanders-Cowboys game, I mean, there's not much to say, but Dallas has an awful defense. I follow many Dallas Cowboys beat writers on X, so I had a lot of stats at my disposal, and there's a lot of topics coming out of that game. But I'm gonna get to the stats that they were showing. But I just came away thinking, man, Dallas has just one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Josh Johnson was literally taking them down the field. The idea that this game was even close, a one-score game, given the stats that I'm fixing to provide you, is very, very astonishing. It just really, really indicates how garbage this Cowboys defense is. And this is the part that was really frustrating. You know, Quinn Williams was back, and the Commanders were able to run the ball very well. Like Krosky Merritt, just coming out game. You know, this is a guy who the organization was very high on. Like Josh Harrison, the company was very high on this guy. And they traded away Brian Robinson to the 49ers because of that. And he hasn't really, outside of the Chargers game earlier in the season, he really hasn't done much. You know, he's been splitting reps with Rodriguez and a couple of guys. And in this game, Krosky Merritt, you know, nothing to lose. He's just out there cooking the Cowboys. He just out on the goalpost for a 70-yard play. So they were able to run the ball, and it's going to take free agency in the draft to save this defense. I really don't think those 2 first-round picks those 2 guys are going to save this defense. They need to build around. Like, they need guys everywhere. I think the Cowboys have the worst safety room in the league. Their DBs is horrific. Ravel, I don't think he's comfortable off that ACL yet. He just doesn't move that well. Got one of the worst linebacking cores. It was just all around bad. But let's get to the stats here. This was a head-scratching stat that I already knew, but it's just very daunting the more I researched. The Cowboys ran 87 total plays. Washington ran 41. The Cowboys ran double the amount of plays than the Washington Commanders. led by Josh Johnson. If you told me that stat, not even watching the game, not even knowing the score, not even checking the box score, I'm telling you, like, yeah, Dallas, boat race. Because when you associate with that in the time of possession, Dallas had 40 minutes of time in possession, and they ran double the amount of plays. And if you tell me that without looking at any other stat, I'm like, oh my God, Dallas won by 25, 30? Like, this should have been a landslide. No, the Cowboys were in a dogfight with the Washington Commanders on Christmas Day against Josh Johnson because the defense was horrifically bad. Dallas, offensively, was 6 for 6 on fourth down. And there was a very egregious stat that came out after this game that takes the cake. The Cowboys have allowed a touchdown or field goal on 75% of drives in the last 4 games, 27 of 36, against teams with a combined record of 31 and 32. So the Dallas Cowboys defense is playing bad and allowing high efficiency of 75% of scoring drives against teams that are not even that good. These are not even the upper echelon type teams in the NFL. These are not teams that are making the playoffs. They are doing this against teams that have a combined losing under 500 record. That is how bad this Cowboys defense is. Jerry Jones has discussed it on 105.3 The Fan, and I've wanted to talk about it, but I haven't got around to it. But there's no way that you roll back Matt Eberflus this season. Like, it's just, this defense is atrociously bad. And it showed in that game because Josh Johnson, they had a drive. They were on a drive to win the game. They had not to win the game, but a game time drive, but could potentially win if they were to go for 2, because I would have went for 2. In this, they're already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and this conversation got brought up on Friday post Christmas Eve on First Taking a couple shows, and I just want to give my 2 cents on it. I'm questioning if Dak and most of the starters should play. Dak was sacked 6 times on Sunday. Dak didn't even play very well, in my opinion. It was probably one of his worst games of the season. I would say probably the Chicago game, the Denver game. This game was top 3, one of the worst games he's had this year. He missed a lot of throws, missed a lot of gimmies. Just not one of the best games that Dak had. And Dak has been sacked 14 times in the last month. So given his injury history, it just doesn't seem ideal to roll out Dak Prescott. Granted, I know Dak Prescott has talked about in the press conferences he's had the last couple of days, and he's talked about, I've never started a season I've never started the season as a starting quarterback, played all the games, and we were under 500. That is in jeopardy on Sunday when they got the nooner kickoffs with the games that mean absolutely nothing. So that is something that Dak Prescott doesn't want to be associated with. And, Dak Prescott hasn't played a full season in a couple years now because, he's had I think he's had a wrist injury. He's had the ankle injuries, had a hamstring last year. Might not even been his wrist. It might have been his finger. I don't know. He's had a couple of injuries. And I know the ankle injury and hamstring for sure. I think he might have had a rib too. But yeah, I just don't think it's an ideal to move given Dak's injury history. And another thing too, you're going to MetLife Stadium. You're going to the stadium that just not literally murders players. Like, it just does. Like, it just, for some reason, that field just catches bodies all season. The Giants themselves lost a lot of meaningful players because of that field. Just that alone, I would not play most of the starters. I don't think CeeDee Lamb should trot out there. I don't think Dak Prescott should. I would probably go ahead and throw George Pickens out there because he's still trying to play for money. But outside of that, I'm not trotting him out there. I'm not playing Quinn Williams. I'm not playing the core players that are meaningful and add value to the future going into next season. Not doing it. And George Pickens is honestly considered one of them guys. I might toss George Pickens out there for the first quarter to help Joe Milton out. Have a capable caliber wide receiver out there. Let George Pickens make a couple plays, and I'm getting him out of there. Like, this game means absolutely nothing for the Cowboys. Like, honestly, if they need to help themselves out by losing so they can get the highest draft pick that they need. And it gives yourself a chance to activate Jayden Blue and give yourself a chance to see some of your young talent. Like start some of the young guys that you got out of the draft, let them play some, and just evaluate yourself going into next season. So that's all I had to say about this game. That game, rather. There's not much. It's the Cowboys losing team, not making playoffs. I'm not going to waste the majority of my podcast talking about them. But let's go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes. This is the last topic of the show. And we're going to discuss the Detroit Lions because I've talked about this team a lot. And when I discussed them earlier on in the year, I hinted around this possibly happening. But people wanted to downplay what I said. But my prediction has come into fruition. The Detroit Lions were officially eliminated from the playoffs on Christmas Day. I didn't watch most of this game, I'm going to be totally honest. I spent time with family. We watched some Christmas movies. I baked cookies, this and that. So I didn't really pay much attention to this game. But I don't really have much to discuss about the game. I know that just watching a couple of highlights, the Vikings defense was putting it on Jared Goff in that offense. That was one of the worst games. That's definitely the worst game that the Lions have played all year. With everything on the line, given that you needed to win out to get into the playoffs to at least give yourself a chance, they laid a goose egg in that game offensively. They got worked. In a game where you lost to a team whose quarterback had 5 net passing yards. 5. I didn't watch the game. I wanted to really figure out how the heck did the Vikings even score 23 points? Their quarterback had 5 net passing yards, and you lose that game. That's just absolutely embarrassing. But this is the overarching conversation that I thought about. This team is a testament of of having to take advantage of your opportunities when they are given to you. The last couple of seasons. Let's go down memory lane. After their really, really disappointing loss in the NFC Championship game against the Niners 2 years ago, where after the first half, you're like, yeah, the Lions are going to their first Super Bowl. They laid a goose egg, and they lost. And Dan Campbell came out in the presser and was like, who knows if we're ever going to be in this position again. My Lord, did he foreshadow his own team's demise. The year after that, last season, you're the number 1 seed. First playoff game in the divisional round, you lose to the Commanders. Granted, it's no slouch against Commanders. They went on to play, and they were the shocking team in the playoff. They were the underdog, came out and played in the championship game against the Eagles. But yeah, you're 1 seed. You don't lose that game to the Washington Commanders, a team who was a wild card team. I think they were a 7th seed. And when I thought about it, I was looking at a couple teams. Teams like the Bengals with Joe Burrow have not been back yet. Cam Newton and the Panthers never went back to the Super Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens were another team that I thought about. They haven't been back in forever. I thought about the Baltimore Ravens and the fact that Lamar Jackson in a couple years ago, when they were the number 1 seed in the AFC and they hosted the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs, they're like, yeah, Baltimore's going to the Super Bowl. And they lost to the Chiefs in big time plays down the stretch they didn't make. And look, they're in a game on Sunday Night Football to go to the playoffs, but we all know the Ravens are going to get absolutely boat raced in the playoffs this year. Not even close to Super Bowl contenders. And another component that is very important to going to the Super Bowl, injuries. This year, you had guys like Terrion Arnold, had a shoulder problem. Brian Branch tore his Achilles. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a big knee issue. He had to come back and play, but you could tell on Christmas Day that knee was bothering him. Like Amon-Ra there at the end of the game, just coming out, just looking absolutely beat up, limping off the field. It was just a testament of the Lions season. It really was. And we knew this stat would probably come back to bite him. Dan Campbell took over the play calling in Week 10. They put up 50 points against the Commanders. But we were going to come back to the stat. Dan Campbell, as of right now, has been 3-5. 3 wins and 5 losses since taking over the play calling. And I looked it up. I did some deep research. I was like, what is the differences between the Dan Campbell offensively, the stats from him before and after picking up the play calling? And look, the offense was statistically better, but the head coaching part of it was not present, which is Dan Campbell's strong suit. In the second half of the season, they weren't efficient on fourth down like they were when Dan Campbell wasn't responsible for the offensive play calling. The late game management has not been nowhere near as good. The team doesn't seem buttoned up. Now, granted, the penalties were kind of around the same, but when it just comes to execution and things of that nature, like, it wasn't on full display. Like, they just was not ready to play and competitive for 4 quarters. I was over here I was slurring my words trying to figure out like how to get to the 4 quarters part. They did not play complete games. That's one thing that Mike Vrabel really talked about with his Patriots team when they lost to, a couple weeks ago, they lost to the Bills when the Bills came back. It's like, you got to complete 4 quarters of football. You got to do that. And Mike Vrabel was able to do that because, to my knowledge, Mike Vrabel doesn't call plays. Like, he is the delegator. He's the head coach. And that is Mike Vrabel and Dan Campbell. These guys have the same type of persona when it comes to coaching. Like, I don't call the plays. I'm the best game manager. I make the right decisions when I need to. I'm more than likely 95% of the time, I press the right buttons. I have my guys ready to play, and I put themselves in a good position to win games. The Lions have lost 3 games in a row. The Dallas game, Dan Campbell was 3-2, play calling, all-time high. Last couple weeks, you lose to the Vikings. You lose to the Steelers, which was an absolute shocker. And you lose to the Rams. And your season is over. So, it is easy to question if the Lions will ever have a chance again to get to the Super Bowl. You should have won the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. The number 1 seed last season should not have lost in the divisional round. And the emergence of teams in your own division. Caleb Williams and the Bears and Ben Johnson aren't going anywhere. They're just going to get better. They're young. The Packers are always good. Granted, they've been the 7th seed in the playoffs for 3 years in a row now, and more likely will not be able to make no noise because they're not healthy. But it's the Packers. They always find a way to be competitive. And the Vikings are a quarterback away from being a very good team, and it was on display Thursday, Christmas Day, when they played the Vikings. Like, if you watch that game, that defense is phenomenal. Just imagine if they had a quarterback. Like, you have Justin Jefferson, a guy who's been a Pro Bowler, been an All-Pro every single year he's played. I think they said this is the first full season that Jettis has played, and he's not making the Pro Bowl. Like, you got that type of you got those type of caliber players. You have Jordan Addison, one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the league. So you got that to think about in your future as well. So, and the Lions, I'm going to throw a little quick shot here because they did it with my Dallas Cowboys. They whine about calls. And I wanted to discuss it last week. Like that one call about the... Now, I think the pass interference call was egregious. But the whining and the pouting about the offensive pass interference on Amon-Ra St. Brown and everybody talking about that's a horrific call. Like, you don't know football. Amon-Ra clearly pushes the defender to create space. Pass interference should not have been a touchdown. Wasn't a touchdown. Correct call by the officials. And I got to give you all a lot of good, a lot of credit for that, rather. But that is all. I am out, ladies and gentlemen. I am out of topics. I am back on schedule this week. I got back in the gym today. I got a lot of exciting things. As you see, I enjoy my new tumbler here. I got it to be able to. I feel like John Middlecoff. Shout out John Middlecoff. About to turn him on while I edit these videos. But I thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I will be back with you all on Wednesday to discuss the action from Monday Night Football and things of that nature, and talk about some of the games and the big topics going into next week, week 18, the final week of the NFL season. Where's the time gone? Where has the time gone? Like, it is crazy to sit here and say that we are fixing to go into the last week of the 2025 NFL season. Like, it's wild to think about. Absolutely wild to think about. The playoffs is upon us, and we got a great playoff. This is probably going to be one of the best playoffs in years. You don't have the Chiefs. You're not going to have Joe Burrow. There's a lot of parity in the NFC. We're probably more than likely might not have Lamar Jackson or in the Ravens in the playoffs. Wait until that matchup on Sunday. It's very exciting. We're going to crown a new champion this year. The Eagles are not winning the Super Bowl. Look, I know they're real tall with MJ. Love the guy. He's young like me. We're trying to make it in this media industry. But some of his takes yesterday, oh my Lord. Like, if I had to cachet that guy, a couple of these guys have that's calling him out, I'd be first. I'd do it respectfully. I'd get on a Zoom call with him. I'd be like, guy, you're crazy. Like, you're absolutely crazy. There's no way you're watching these games and thinking the Eagles are as good as you're making them out to be. He's an Eagles fan. We can't help ourselves. We love our teams. And he's the epitome of a Philadelphia sports fan. But great. We're going to have a great playoffs, and I'm looking so much forward to it. And I got some exciting things and some college football as well. We're going to have some college football this week. We got matchups on Wednesday. College football playoffs got a lot going on, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you for joining me. I hope you all enjoyed. Do not hesitate to like, subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. I'm about to cook up some YouTube shorts for you all and repost some of these videos. And I'll be with you all live on Wednesday. Have a great wait. No, now that I think about it, Wednesday is New Year's Eve. And I think it'll be an early morning show on Wednesday. We're going to do an early morning show. I'll get back to you all on that. If not, I will definitely be with you all on Thursday. So I'll keep that in the loop. If I'm not live on Wednesday, I'm going live on Thursday. And we're definitely going to be live on Friday to give some stuff going into the final week of the NFL. Just a lot going on. I might do more videos and talk about some college football. Just got a lot to talk about. But thank you all for joining me. I'm done on my soapbox for today, and I will see you all on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Happy holidays, happy New Year's Eve, and happy New Year.